What's up, everybody? It's Dr. James Antonio. If you're new to my community, I'm a doctor of pharmacy and a cardiovascular research scientist. I've been publishing in the medical literature for about a decade now. I have over a couple hundred publications on nutrition and nutraceuticals, and evidence-based nutrition is what I'm all about. That's why I wrote my two books, The Salt Fix and Superfuel. Guys, definitely pick up a copy of The Salt Fix if you think salt is bad for you. I spent 3 years writing this book, over 500 references. You're going to love this book. So definitely check out The Salt Fix. And then I wanted to bust the myth not only on salt, but on what people thinking omega-6 vegetable oils are healthier than animal fats. So I wrote Superfuel, Ketogenic Keys to Unlocking the Secrets of Good Fats, Bad Fats, and Optimal Health. This is a great book if you want to learn about the healthy fats to cook with and to consume on a ketogenic diet. Superfuel is the book you want to pick up. I spent 3 years researching and writing this. It's got hundreds of references. And this is going to be the topic of our today's conversation. Superfuel, healthy fats on a ketogenic diet, and how healthy fats can control your own fat burning capacity. So make sure you click on the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. Click on the bell as well so you get notified when I upload a new video. Guys, send me all your comments and questions on this video. Like the video. I'll try to make sure I answer as many comments and questions as possible. You're going to want to follow me on social media too, because I'm really good at getting back to my followers on their questions and comments as well. If you want to follow me on Facebook, it's Dr. James Antonio. You can't follow me on my non-professional personal Facebook page. If you use Twitter or you use Instagram, it's at Dr. James Dinic, D-I-N-I-C. And definitely check out my website, drjamesdinic.com. Again, D-I-N-I-C. Submit your email address. You'll get cool free content, newsletters, things like that. And I'll keep you guys up to date on what I'm doing and some of my newest publications. Okay, so the topic of today's post is Superfuel. So that's the book that myself and Dr. Mercola wrote. It comes out November 13th. And really, it's all about optimizing the ketogenic diet. Since fats are going to make up 80% of the calories you're going to eat on a ketogenic diet, if you get it wrong, you can potentially worsen your health. So you got to get those fats right. And so really, that's why I wrote this book. So let's talk about Superfuel. Let's talk about some things that people might be doing wrong on a ketogenic diet first. The one thing that I was doing wrong is I was adding too much added fats. I was putting way too much heavy cream in my coffee, and I was using way too much butter on, either I would eat like a healthy piece of bread, like Ezekiel bread. I wasn't eating a lot of carbs, but my weight loss stalled, and I actually started gaining a little bit of weight. So if you're having an issue in a ketogenic diet, it's probably the fat bombs that are causing your weight loss to stall or causing you to gain weight. So step number one, probably for me, it was reducing the fat bombs. Okay. Number two, upping omega-3 content. So omega-3s come in different forms. There's plant omega-3, which gives you ALA, also known as alpha-linolenic acid. And then there are marine omega-3s, which give you the long-chain marine omega-3s, EPA and DHA. They both serve different purposes. But most people aren't getting enough ALA in their diet because they're not eating nuts, seeds, and certain greens too are very good sources of ALA. Seafood, shellfish are good sources of marine omega-3s. A lot of blue-green algae actually is not a good source of marine omega-3s. Spirulina doesn't have a lot, so you're not going to get really your omega-3s from that type of blue-green algae. Okay, so plant omega-3s, again, they are important because they bring ALA. Now, ALA is a ketogenic substrate, kind of like MCTs or medium chain triglycerides. They don't really get readily stored. They are more burned for ketone bodies and for energy. So ALA is a good ketogenic substrate. You get things like spinach, ALA is in nuts and seeds. So it's a good fat to eat that's going to provide you energy right away and not readily be stored. Now, long-chain saturated fats in heavy cream, dairy, and other substances like butter, they're not bad for you, but some people have cheat days. Some people eat a little bit more carbohydrates and do cyclical ketogenic diets. When you add carbs on top of long-chain saturated fats, that's bad because long-chain saturated fats compared to, let's say, monounsaturated fats like oleic acid have a lower beta oxidation rate, meaning they don't get burned in the liver for fuel, for energy, as readily as oleic acid does. They get stored more. And they also have a lower thermic effect, meaning it takes your body more energy to metabolize and burn olive oil than it does heavy cream or butter. So if you're upping the carb intake a little bit, if you eat too many of those heavy cream, butter foods, and that might potentially lead to weight gain. So swapping that out with some extra virgin olive oil has been shown in studies of people who are eating 300 grams of carbs, mind you, a 6-pound fat loss within 4 weeks. So I doubt it would be that dramatic if you're on a ketogenic diet. But again, the fats that you eat do matter because there's not just a thermic effect and a beta oxidation effect, but certain fats affect hunger and affect genes as well that cause you to burn fat better. One being long-chain omega-3s, the EPA and DHA from shellfish and salmon, wild salmon, not farm salmon. They actually activate genes that increase beta oxidation or fat burning in your liver. So you literally burn 20% more fat doing nothing when you consume 3 to 4 grams of omega-3, EPA, and DHA per day versus not. You burn 30% more fat, your beta oxidation goes up 30%. When you exercise, when you're consuming high doses of omega-3s, like 3 to 4 grams. So you are literally a better fat-burning machine when you're making sure you're getting high intakes of the marine omega-3s, EPA, and DHA. And we have a clinical study now showing that consuming 4 grams of EPA per day significantly reduces cardiovascular events in a patient population that either has cardiovascular disease or has type 2 diabetes with one additional risk factor and also elevated triglycerides. So high-dose omega-3s we know is definitely safe, and now we have a study in thousands of patients studied, I think, for 5 years, showing a significant reduction. That was the Reduce It study that used 4 grams of EPA. So, okay, now that we know that ALA omega-3 is a good fat that we want to integrate more of, things like it can be found in chia, hemp seed, as well as flaxseed. Flax is actually probably the highest in ALA, and then your marine omega-3s. Also, there's somewhat of an issue with marine omega-3s in regards to, yes, wild seafood is way better than farm seafood, but it's expensive, and you still can't prevent the persistent organic pollutants that are occurring in the environment. So krill oil is great because krill are near the bottom of the food chain. They have less persistent organic pollutants versus, let's say, salmon, because salmon is higher up in the food chain. And when you cook salmon, you reduce the astaxanthin in the salmon and you reduce its bioavailability. So you reduce the levels of astaxanthin in wild salmon when you cook by about 50%. You probably reduce its bioavailability by 50%. So a great way to get a very high concentration, highly bioavailable form of astaxanthin, which is a carotenoid that the krill get from the phytoplankton that they're eating, is to consume krill oil. Now, astaxanthin is 10 times lower in farm salmon than wild salmon, which is why you want to consume wild versus farmed salmon. But an additional way to cut costs too, since wild seafood is very expensive, is to supplement with krill oil on days you're not consuming wild seafood. I consume 4 grams of krill oil because every gram of krill oil gives you about 1 milligram of astaxanthin. And really 4 milligrams seems to be sort of like the minimal effective dose. So that's why I consume krill oil at that dose. I also consume a high quality fish oil, which actually has some olive leaf extract to prevent the fish oil from oxidizing. I consume about 3 grams of that per day as well because you need high doses to get all the benefits of fish oil. So a lot of the studies that weren't working in the past were because they never used the 4 grams that was finally used in the Reduce It study. But basically, if you want to get the blood pressure lowering effects, the anti-triglyceride effects, the plaque stabilizing effects, the blood pressure lowering effects, 3 to 4 grams of EPA and DHA seem to be the optimal amount. And even when combined with aspirin, numerous studies, including review papers from Bill Harris, have shown there's no significant increase in major bleeds when you do that. Okay, so important points so far to take away on a ketogenic diet. Fat bombs can potentially be your enemy. Not getting the plant omega-3s and marine omega-3s and in the right doses can potentially stall fat loss. There are other healthy fats that we haven't talked about yet. Medium chain triglycerides, like coconut oil, which has a lot of lauric acid, which is C12. A lot of the MCT oils are C8 and C10, caprylic and capric acid. Those medium chain triglycerides get directed more to the liver and burned more for ketone body production versus being stored compared to long chain saturated fats. So medium chain triglycerides, there's been systematic reviews and meta-analyses published in numerous randomized trials that compare to long chain saturated fats found in heavy cream, again, and butter. If you swap that out with medium chain triglycerides, there is a significant reduction in visceral fat, weight gain, BMI, things like that, waist to hip ratio. So if you do swap out some butter, which I love the flavor of butter, but if you're overeating that and you swap some of that out with MCT oil, there could be a reduction in fat gain. Okay, so that's MCT oil. Coconut oil is good to cook with because it's very stable, saturated fat. It's mostly saturated fat, but this is coming from a plant, right? Coming from a coconut. So coconut oil seems to have some antibacterial properties as well, not readily shared by just MCT oil. Okay, let's talk about some of the healthy omega-6 fats. Omega-6 fat isn't, a dietary demon per se, as long as it's coming from whole, real foods like seeds, nuts, chicken, pastured eggs. Because the omega-6 is protected in the whole food. There's vitamin E and other vitamins that are and minerals that are coming with the whole food in coatings on seeds and nuts that are protecting the linoleic acid from oxidizing in the acid of your stomach. When you consume these vegetable oils, basically before you even ingest them, it takes multi-million-dollar machinery, hexane solvents to get the oil out, high pressure, high heat, already oxidizing the linoleic acid. Then it's thrown in a plastic bottle and it's exposed to light 24/7 on a grocery shelf. Then you decide to cook with it and oxidize it further. And then when you consume it, you're getting this isolated linoleic acid that doesn't have the vitamin E and other vitamins and minerals and fiber and protective coating that now oxidizes in the acid of your stomach, forming hydroperoxides and aldehydes, which damage your body. So that's the difference between omega-6 from whole foods and isolated omega-6 from vegetable oils. You don't want to cook with omega-6 vegetable oils like sunflower, safflower, cottonseed oil, corn oil. You don't want to cook with those because they oxidize when you cook them because, again, omega-6 is very susceptible to oxidation. And all the studies show that when you cook with those omega-6 vegetable oils, you get a release of the oxidation products. And hydroperoxides and aldehydes form, and you can even form trans fats too, cooking those oils. So you don't want to cook with those. So what are the healthy fats to cook with? Probably the best fat to cook with is extra virgin olive oil. Forget everything you've been taught about with smoke point. Literally, the oils that have the highest smoke point tend to have the worst amounts of oxidation products that are formed when they're cooked. So grapeseed oil, for example, and canola oil have high smoke points, but they have a very high, one of the worst amounts of oxidation products that occur when you cook with them. So smoke point is only determined by 1% of the oil, the free fatty acid content. The other 99% is what you really care about. And that's the oxidation of the oil. And extra virgin olive oil has so many polyphenols it prevents the oil from oxidizing. So it's been shown in studies that even compared to coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil forms the least amount of oxidation products. Your next best fats to cook with after extra virgin olive oil would be your animal fats or your plant saturated fats. So really your fats that are high in saturated fat. Coconut oil, butter, ghee. Butter obviously can burn a little bit if you're cooking at higher temperatures, so that's where ghee comes in. But lard, tallow, things like that, because they're stable, they are saturated fats. There's no double bonds for the free radicals to attack and damage. Then next best would probably be avocado oil. Avocado oil does not have the polyphenols that extra virgin olive oil does. So it does form more oxidation products, but again, it's a monounsaturated fat. Only one double bond versus the omega-6 vegetable oils, which have multiple double bonds. Okay, so hopefully, guys, you've learned which fats are healthy to eat on a ketogenic diet, which fats to avoid, and what fats are good to cook with, and what fats aren't. Definitely pick up a copy of Superfuel. It's chock full of a lot more information. You guys will love it. It's going to help you out even further than this video because there's hundreds of references and I put 3 years of research into that book. So definitely pick up a copy of Superfuel. Thanks for joining me, guys. See you next time.